Good morning and thank you for joining us. My name is Paul Burns. I'm President and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association, and welcome to this beautiful location this morning. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nation, Métis, and Indigenous people. An acknowledgement reminds us of our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and the friendship of the Indigenous people. With me today are colleagues across the tourism and travel industry. Welcome His Worship Mayor Jim Diodati, Mayor of the City of Niagara Falls, Janice Thompson, President and CEO of Niagara Falls Tourism, and Maury DeMauricio, Chief Operating Officer of Niagara City Cruises. And a big thank you to Niagara City Cruises for hosting us such a beautiful location this morning. Everyone in Canada and around the world, for that matter, should join and experience this awe-inspiring attraction. The differences between Canadian and American casinos cannot be any starker. The difference between Canadian and American hotels are extreme. And the differences between the streets of Niagara Falls, Ontario, and the streets of Niagara Falls, New York are startling. Earlier this month, the American Gaming Association reported a record-tying start to the 2021 year, with U.S. gross gaming revenue surpassing $11 billion for the first quarter in 2021. That's less than a year after COVID-19 forced the closure of virtually every casino in America last spring. It also comes as many U.S. gaming facilities still have had to handle a number of emergency regulations like reduced capacity due to the pandemic. Here in Niagara Falls, casinos look eerily like they did in March 2020, closed. Casinos are a significant part of Niagara's tourism draw, and it's time for us to begin to reopen safely. This past week in British Columbia, casinos which have been closed since March 2020 were given the green light to open, joining casinos in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. This was a significant step in the right direction in British Columbia, but Ontario casinos, a province with more vaccinated population than British Columbia, remain entirely shut down, and this doesn't make sense. And it's just not about our customers. I worry about the 180,000 Canadians whose employment is supported by the gaming industry. I worry about the family members of the 4,000 employees of Niagara casinos who have not worked since March of 2020, and for their family members that rely on these well-paying jobs to pay their family bills. It's hard to imagine Niagara Falls without casinos open, let alone Niagara Falls without American tourists. Everyone knows the Canadian side of the falls has a legacy as a must-see destination, offering unique views of the iconic falls, along with many memorable experiences. And from here, we can see on the other side of the falls that people can enjoy the attractions, enjoy the hotels, enjoy the casinos, shows, and other attractions, and go to work without fear of losing their livelihood. If action is not taken soon, Niagara Falls we all love so much, the Niagara Falls that helps our tourism industry in Ontario and in Canada so much, may never be the same. Canadian visitors will support the tourism sector as they start to travel, but this city relies on foreign travel. The city casinos welcome international visitors, and the city also relies on a very robust gaming sector. Caesars Windsor, another important border city, together with the two Niagara casinos, welcome over 12 million visitors annually, with approximately 25% of those visitors from outside the province of Ontario. And with that, with vaccination rates where they are, it's time to invite our friends from the South back to visit and give this city the kickstart it deserves and desperately needs. What needs to be done here is a clear set of conditions for safely resuming travel that supports trade, investment, and growth. Canada needs to articulate a clear path, the path to reopen, to enable business plans to start, for people to begin booking into hotels and attractions here in Niagara Falls. We need clarity on protocols, such as vaccine credentials, documentation, rapid testing, ventilation mitigation, and safe air travel corridors. It's vital to create a line of sight for reopening, including the Government of Ontario must provide more clarity on step 3 for the hospitality and tourism sector. We are less than 3 weeks away, and even casinos don't know what our capacity will be, or if we'll be able to open table games, and how many employees to call back. We need time to prepare. We need answers today. And nothing should stop this work. Governments need to give our industry, the tourism, hospitality, casino sectors, a clear line of sight to a complete reopen. So I'd like now to turn it over to Mayor Diodati, Mayor of Niagara Falls.
Thanks very much, Paul. So here we are, beautiful backdrop. You can see the falls just behind me. You can hear the helicopters. You can see the Maid of the Mist on the US side going by with full boats. And you can see our Niagara City cruises at 25% capacity. And I'm here, I know, with Maury, our COO. But the frustrating part is, an entrepreneur myself, as a business owner for many, many years, I know how hard it is to make money in business at the best of times. And you can't imagine taking away 75% of someone's business and telling them, go make money. It's very, very difficult. I know it was just mentioned, Niagara Falls is the #1 leisure destination in Canada. And 12 to 14 million people choose us as their destination. And it was mentioned, 25% come from the United States. But the more important number is the fact that they represent 50% of the revenue, 50. And 40,000 people count on tourism to put food on the table, to pay their mortgages, pay the rent. And when you cut that off, it has a big effect. And is tourism important in Niagara Falls? I'd say it's up there with oxygen. So it's very, very important. All of us have utilized tourism to pay for our education, to help us get ahead in life. Tourism is very, very important. So what we're asking our governments to do is follow the science. Follow the science for a safe opening and show us the plan. We need transparency in the plan. And I don't know who better than those of us that work in the industry at the border to talk to about the plan. And further to that, if the very least you open up the borders to people fully vaccinated, you incentivize them to want to get their vaccine so we don't deal with vaccine hesitancy. Myself, I've received both of my vaccines, and I'm encouraging all my family and all my friends so that we can once again travel and incentivize people to go watch the Blue Jays play in downtown Buffalo at Salem Field. Even my dog, when I would want to take him across the border, I had to show his vaccination papers that he'd been vaccinated against rabies. So, is it an inconvenience? Yeah. So is carrying a passport since 9/11. But that's what you do if you want to travel across the border. It's not that big a deal. We can get past it. And I've been on a lot of Zoom calls with Minister Blair, the public safety minister for our federal government, along with all the other border city mayors. And we've had great discussions. And the part that we've been pressing him on is a plan. Share the plan. And he intimated to us that they expect on or about July the 21st that Canadians will be 75% fully vaccinated, and we'd be in a position to loosen the restrictions at the borders. So what we're asking is put it in writing, share the metrics, because how do you know when you hit the target when you're not sure exactly where the target is? So we're asking our government, share the plan. You know the trajectory already. We're in great shape. Vaccination numbers are through the roof. We're leading most of the world. And our cases for COVID are going down. The XY relationship is in a great place. So we're sure we know where the trajectory is. Certainly, we can pick a date. And like any plan, it's okay to change the plan. What I always say is, even if I plan to drive to Ottawa, things may change. There might be construction, there might be congestion, I might have a flat tire. But you follow the plan and you have to amend the plan, then so be it. But share the plan with us. I've also been in regular consultation with border city mayors, congressmen, senators, and they're asking me the question, what's the holdup? When will you open? And I'm embarrassed to say I don't know. We're waiting for the plan. And one of my major concerns is the fact that the U.S. may go it alone. They may unilaterally open the border. And what's the risk to that? The risk is that Canadians will take their money into the U.S. and spend it there, and we won't be reciprocated with the Americans coming into Canada to spend their money. And there were some concerns that our Border Patrol might not be able to handle the COVID protocols. Well, come on. I mean, they deal with guns, drugs, human trafficking. I'm certain that they can handle COVID protocols. What they need is some time to plan. This is not going to be a light switch where you just flip it on and say, Monday, be ready. Let's decide right now. Let's announce the plan. Let's pick the date. And if it's July 21st, then let's go with it. Give time to train everybody so everyone's prepared for what's about to happen. Here in Niagara Falls, we created some great protocols and plans that have worked amazingly. SafeToPlay.ca and SafeToStay.ca, where people know when you come here, this is a safe destination. that we've gone above and beyond with epidemiologists and other experts to help us come up with a plan that people will be safe. And in Niagara Falls, we deal with the old 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. 80% of the revenue comes during 20% of the time. So between this past weekend and Labor Day, that's when the lion's share of revenue comes into our community that'll sustain us through the quieter times. So opening now, or certainly having the plan with the date now, is key for the success, more importantly, the survival of tourism in this country. We can't have 2 seasons cut off and expect us to survive. A lot of businesses have been hanging on barely. We're grateful for all the money that we receive from other levels of government, but that's just enough to keep our head above water. It's time that they're able to swim and they can survive on their own. We know that small, medium business is the backbone of this economy. So let's make sure that they're successful, give them a chance to go fight. Let's not tie their hands behind their back. And the last thing I'll say is, let's be consistent with our reporting of numbers. It seems that there's 3 different sets of numbers being reported. We've got the numbers of total people vaccinated, then we've got the number of adults vaccinated, and then we've got the number of people able to receive, eligible population able to receive. Let's pick one number, and let's make sure we include all of the Canadians who've already been vaccinated in the United States. And we know that number is at the very least in the hundreds of thousands and possibly much more. Let's include that in our numbers so that we know that the numbers that we're utilizing are accurate. So folks, let's ask for more of a plan and less of a puzzle. A lot of livelihoods are depending on us making the right decisions. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce my friend and the president and CEO of Niagara Falls Tourism for Niagara Falls, Janice Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your local leadership on issues relating to COVID-19, and in particular your attention to the disproportionate effect that the pandemic has had on travel and tourism issues, has been so much appreciated by the business community. And that's not only by those at Niagara Falls Tourism, but by everyone in the Niagara community. It goes without saying that the past 16 months have been stressful on many levels. The social impact of the public health crisis has been enormous. And from a business perspective, the tourism industry has been one of the hardest hit sectors from the pandemic travel restrictions. To put it in perspective, the Canadian side of Niagara Falls saw total visitors drop by half last year. And as a result, businesses are seeking proactive solutions to not lose another important summer season. Almost half of North America's population is within a one-day drive of Niagara Falls, Canada. We welcome 14 million visitors a year, and of that, 30% come from the United States. This equates to $861 million of revenue each year. We know that with the border closed, that number goes to 0. Niagara Falls Tourism has and will continue to view the pandemic as a public health crisis. Our top priority throughout this period has been to protect our people, our families, and our communities. This will not change. In fact, I am very aware of the individual experiences, the loss of life, and the absolute personal tragedies that have been experienced because of the terrible virus. With that all in mind, we are entering a new chapter of the COVID-19 situation, a brighter period, where the light at the end of the tunnel has never been clearer, a chapter with vaccinations and vaccines that work. With vaccination comes hope, hope for people's health and safety, but also hope for our local tourism sector that is struggling. What's missing is a comprehensive plan to turn this hope into reality, a reality that is realized in time to save Niagara Falls' summer season. Local businesses, like Niagara City Cruises, have done their part to invest in protective equipment, PPE, and they've innovated to make space for social distancing. Businesses have implemented new protocols, and staff have invested hours of effort in training for the new intensive practices. The tourism industry has seen support from federal and provincial governments in the form of wage and rent subsidies, PPE subsidies, and funds to maintain marketing of this destination. However, since the onset of the pandemic, this sector continues to see unimaginable challenges and pressure on its future sustainability. We know that international tourism is crucial to stimulating international trade and foreign investment, and that recovery may be years away. More than ever, clarity on what life looks like going forward is required. The Canada-US border has been closed to non-essential travel since March 2020. As Canada and the US return to normal, we must prepare to open the border efficiently and safely, and in turn restart our visitor economy. Without question, now is the time for the federal government to put in place and share an evidence-based plan to reopen this border. Equally important is the need for federal leadership on traveling within our country. Canadians should be able to freely travel across the country. In the absence of a nationwide plan, we are seeing a patchwork of provincial policies roll out that are difficult to reconcile. Canadians could really use a single national policy approach to travel that clarifies the country's policy on vaccination certification, our international border, unvaccinated minors, partially vaccinated Canadians, and other critical details that require that national leadership. In the meantime, Niagara Falls businesses have been hard at work creating a safe travel experience, and we are ready to welcome people back to our city, Niagara Falls, where it's always safe to play, always safe to stay. Thank you. I will now pass the microphone to Maury DiMaurizio, Chief Operating Officer of Niagara City Cruises.
Thank you, Janice. I'm very proud to host the Canadian Travel and Tourism Roundtable here this morning. Before I begin, I would like to thank Mayor Jim, Janice Thompson, and Paul Burns for joining me here, and I couldn't agree more with what has been said today. At Niagara City Cruises, we operate Canada's #1 gated tourist attraction, and we're very proud of that. We provide visitors from all over the world with an up-close and personal voyage to the falls, creating amazing experiences and lifelong memories. And before last week, we were entirely shut down. Boats in dry dock, no visitors, Canadian or otherwise, a skeleton staff, no revenue, and even more difficult, an expectation of 100% rent payments while being locked down and not qualifying for any significant support programs or financial assistance. Like all attractions, COVID-19 pandemic has disproportionately impacted our business and the tourism industry. While I applaud the provincial government's decision to reopen our industry last week at 25%, it is still a long way away from being normal. Operating at 25% is a challenge. Operating the most popular gated attraction in Canada is an expensive feat by no stretch. From safety to maintenance to marine operations to staff, food and beverage, and everything in between, profitability is not near possible at 25%. Like the government, we agree lockdown measures were critical to keeping Niagara safe and to help flatten the curve. But as Niagara Falls becomes one of the most vaccinated sites in the world, we need to rethink our strategy to begin reopening. Here at Niagara City Cruises, we desperately need our guests to ride the boats again. And not just anyone, but people from all over the world, ready to come and experience what Niagara Falls and its world-renowned attractions have to offer. COVID-19 does not discriminate. Regardless of nationality, a fully vaccinated person is a fully vaccinated person. And to that end, it is time we welcome foreign nationals back to our city. Our local economy depends on it. People's livelihoods depend on it. We rely on domestic tourists, but also international tourists to keep the doors open. It is not just our business that is hurting. Attractions across town are in trouble, whether it be the Skywheel or the Fallsview Casino or the many other small and mid-sized businesses, many of whom are at risk of permanent closure. We understand that the decisions in front of our federal government are difficult. However, what the travel and tourism industry is asking for is not difficult. We are all asking for a clear, consistent, and equitable plan. We want a comprehensive national plan to reopen our economy, to ensure the free movement of Canadians across the country, reopen the US-Canadian border, and put in place a clear vaccination certification program to allow entry for international visitors. I think we all can agree that these are critical measures that will enable the recovery of the travel and tourism sector and help kickstart the Canadian economy. Canadians have done a great job and done their part and stayed at home, respecting health and safety measures and getting vaccinated. Now it's time for government to provide a clear, timely, and safe guidance on reopening Canada for international travel. Our communities, our people, and our economy depend on it. Niagara City Cruises depends on it. I would like now to pass the microphone to Paul, who will happily answer and field any questions. Thank you guys very much.
We'll start with any questions here at Niagara City Cruises before we head over to the microphone. Is there anyone here who would like to ask a question? Okay, with that, we'll pass it to the operator.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please press star 1. First question comes from Caroline Simpson as a freelance. Caroline, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. This question is for Mayor Diodati. The federal government recently announced that 75% of Canadians have to be fully vaccinated before the U.S.-Canada border reopens. Do you think that's a fair metric?
I think that's a really good question. And I said this all along, let's be science-based. And we've been told by our science experts that that would be a number that'll put us into the safety zone. So if that's the number, and if that's the number that the epidemiologists and all the public health experts are saying, then I'm behind it. I'm just saying, let's pick a number and run with it, and let's stop moving the goalposts. It seems every time we think we know where we're going, the game changes. It's very, very frustrating. So let's share the game plan. And if it's 75%, that's what the experts have said, then let's run with it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Caroline, do you have any follow-up?
No, thank you.
Your next question comes from John Ferguson with Travel News. John, please go ahead.
Hi all, thanks for taking the time. The Canada Day 4th of July weekend is typically the busiest travel weekend of the summer, yet travel guidelines are still unclear and tourism is at an all-time low. How large of an impact has this had on your summer revenue?
Would you, Janice? I'll turn it over to Janice.
At the start of the pandemic, we saw our business plummet by 90% right away. It was an immediate reduction. And gradually, as we've expanded our marketing to local, short drive distance markets, we've seen a small increase in that. Those numbers are coming up. But the impact, of course, has been massive. We need to see a full recovery of our international business, our American business, to really fulfill the potential of this destination.
Follow-up?
Yes. This question is going to be, or follow-up rather, directly to Mayor Diodati. What's your best case scenario ask government right now regarding reopening?
That's another good question. I think the best case scenario may have already passed us, but I'm thinking at this point, based on all my discussions with people on both sides of the border, including public health experts, I'm going to say that July 21st, if that could be our target, I think we could salvage a good deal of the season, and it would give us enough time to plan and prepare to get the border open. By then, we'll be in step 3 of our provincial recovery plan, which based on vaccinations, we're already there. I think that would give us lots of time to be ready and be ready for the last holidays of the summer season.
Your next question comes from Mathieu Lévesque with Weekly Travel. Mathieu, please go ahead.
Apology there. Thank you very much. My question is for Janice Thompson. Has there been any reaction from your American counterparts in the Niagara Falls tourism sector? Have they said or expressed a position about the situation Canadian businesses such as Niagara City Cruises are currently facing?
Yes, thank you for that question. There certainly has been a discussion between ourselves and our colleagues just across the river. And we always say here, it's not really a firm border. We don't see it as a border. It's like crossing the street. We're going across the river. So we have a very close working business relationship with our partners across the river. So yes, we've had conversations, and we're planning together on how we'll market the open borders, the open travel, the return to travel. And yes, they're certainly watching our situation with interest. It all comes down to those vaccination and infection rates.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim, do you have any follow-up?
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, should you have any questions, please press star 1.
Well, that's.
There are no more questions at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate you being able to join us. We thank you to Niagara Cruises for hosting us today, and for Mayor Diodati for your advocacy on behalf of the industry. We're really grateful. So thank you very much for joining us. Have a good day.